This is Business Therapy, healing businesses from the inside out through communication and emotional intelligence. I'm your host, Diane Handelson, management consultant, and with me as always is Christine Salvo, therapist, certified mediator, and certified hypnotist.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. And today I am so just, I don't know about you, but this coronavirus, this pandemic situation has really brought out both best and worst in me. And
Yeah.
it really has. And it is also brought up quite a bit of fear that I didn't expect. And it's fear about many things. It's fear about consulting clients. It's fear about health. It's fear about how the cleanliness of my house, fear about the behaviors of those who live with me, and all of this is coming up, and it's coming up because right now we are just in an unprecedented time where we have to be distant, and when we are distant sometimes we can go really far within and we lack data. And so, the topic of the show today really is not only addressing our own fears, but communicating with others in time of fear. And this can happen at any time. It doesn't require a pandemic to be a topic. I mean, this can happen at absolutely any time. Is that we get afraid, and it's the old fight or flight. It's, do I fight the saber-toothed tiger? Do I go after it, or do I retreat? Do I run away? Which one am I kind of wired to do the most? Am I a fighter? Am I a flighter? Am
And
I
there's
a
also
yeah,
freeze.
a freeze? Exactly,
Freeze is
exactly. You could
another
just
one of those
freeze
fear
and do
responses.
nothing. So which am I? And when I'm in those situations, how am I communicating with others to tell them, where I'm at with the
Mhm.
situation? That's a big topic, whether you're talking about just your family and the pandemic, or whether you are an essential worker right now and you're working on the front lines, and either in medical field, or you're providing food, or whatever you're doing. It still comes up, and it comes up in really insidious ways. And the reaction piece is really essential, because you can respond or you can react, and it's a choice. And for me, I can tell when I'm about to become reactive because I can feel it in my body. Like,
Mhm.
I can feel my chest tightening up. I can feel myself start to sweat. I can feel that building up. And it's at that point where I have the choice to tap into what I like to call the power of the pause. So pauses are very powerful. And when I'm in fear and I'm facing that fight, that flight, or that freeze, I can also feel the way I feel in my body and go, okay, first of all, the body doesn't lie. So if the body doesn't lie and I'm about to pop, what do I do?
Yeah, I think those are all excellent things. I also want to point out, so I'm doing telehealth, so therapy sessions over the internet on a HIPAA compliant site and all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
common conversations that I'm having right now is it may not even be individual fear, which is a little interesting. It's a collective fear.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing a lot of people and during our calls are going like, I'm having all these feelings, but my life is actually okay. I'm not really experiencing anything from this. I don't know anybody personally that's had an issue. I'm still getting paid in a lot of cases, but yet I still have this overall feeling. And so we've really been talking a lot about what's mine and what's not. So there's something also called collective fear or collective energy. And so when we know that the media right now is doing its job and reporting the news, and unfortunately right now the news is very grim, that when we're inundating ourselves with this or our family members, and a lot of times it's not even us that's doing it, it's someone we live with, is keeping the news channels on and keeping the stock market going. And neither of those numbers look quite great right now, right? They're pretty gruesome and
Mm-hmm.
sad and scary. So not only the fear that you have personally or your family, but also this collective fear.
Right, right. This collective fear, and it brings an energy about things. So if you go outside, there's almost an energy to things that feels different.
Yeah.
And it reminds me actually a lot of the morning of 9/11.
Ooh, that solemn, that very
Yeah.
quiet, that nobody
Like
really knows what to say.
Like, there's something that's really off right now. There's something
Yeah,
that's really off. We're still working through it ourselves, so we don't know how to communicate it. So when we ourselves are in a lot of fear, some people react, but some people freeze. And they just freeze within themselves and it's quiet. So there's a collective consciousness of panic,
yeah,
and there's a collective consciousness of I don't care right
right.
now. So I'm just going to go about my daily life because this is all a big hoax. And there's a collective consciousness of concern and deep love for society. And then there's another subset of consciousness that is like, this is all good. This is Mother Earth's way of, and it's all very light and very, and this is intended. And look at our planet healing, and look at the swans coming back, and so different consciousnesses are reacting different ways. And I think that's why it's really important to align yourself with the support teams and with the
Absolutely.
people who kind of align with something that's going to be more productive.
Yeah, I've been really advising that if the news has to be watched, that it's the evening news because that's going to be the most effective news. It's going to be the most up to date for whatever happened that day to watch 1 hour and then that's it. So
Right.
stay informed, but not inundated.
Right. And like that, informed versus inundated. And I think there's also a way that you can communicate with others that keeps them informed but not inundated. I call the communications technique, which can be very effective if you're showing someone a rash of where they need to change or what needs to be fixed or whatever, where it becomes like, oh, please help me. You can engage in something that's called what I call the fire hose. So the fire hose technique of information is just you just spit it, all of this stuff, spit it, spit it, spit it, spit it, spit it, fire hose, okay, let's change. But
Nobody really likes the fire hose though.
nobody likes the fire hose. Well, the fire hose creates this feeling of inadequacy, like
Yeah,
I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough. If I don't adopt this, and it actually starts to instill a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fear, a little bit of if I don't do this, I will be in deep trouble type feeling. Whereas the different forms of communication, you can be very factual in the communication. You can use the drip method where you're releasing communication to those that matter. And whether it's your family or it's the office or whatever, releasing that in that drip gives the communication a cadence. And when that communication has a cadence, one, you can be somewhat prepared for it. Okay, every day for the next 30 days, we're going to have a family meeting at 6 p.m. and talk about your day. Let's talk about your fears. I'll express mine. We'll talk about any house rules. We'll talk about any changes that we need to incorporate and we'll move on. The business equivalent of that would be the morning stand up. Just a quick 15 minutes. What are you working on? You working on? You working on? Let's align priorities and go. And that drip information means that every morning for my stand up, not only am I prepared to stand up and deliver what I need to deliver, but also I am prepared to receive. I am prepared to receive changes. I am prepared to receive new assignments. I'm prepared to stand up and say, why I feel I need to pivot. But that drip of information versus the fire hose technique would be we're going to hold a 2-hour meeting and we're just going to say everything that is wrong. And then by the end of it, everybody is exhausted. Nobody is ready to take action except for the one person who's really on the hook for it. And then, what do? You develop a plan and then you work the plan, right? But it's the energy that's
yeah,
behind how that information is delivered. So you can drip the information. You can also have just a steady flow of information. So
right.
that's the other thing. So there's the drip method and the fire hose, but there's also a continuous flow. And continuous flow of information is all about creating an information resource that has the potential to be passive, having the potential to say, okay, we have a refrigerator, we have something that we leave notes on, and you can look at that anytime. And that's a part of a flow of information. This is how we check to see if the dog's been fed. This is how we check to see if the project's been done. Here's a project management system. It's a continuous flow of information. As things change, it's going to update. You can look at that when you want project updates, and that's a more of a continuous flow of information. And the other way, it's not a fire hose and it's not an expected drip, it's a bomb.
Yeah.
And the bomb can be really, really stressful because the bomb is kind of about just dropping the bomb. Literally, it is, I have something to share. I'm in reaction. There's an installed urgency. Everyone has to know about this now. So we're dropping the bomb.
Well, and not only that, but the bomb is what it implies. It's typically the end. If I'm dropping the bomb, I quit. By dropping the bomb, I'm leaving. I'm getting a divorce. There's rarely a bomb that's getting dropped without some kind of finality behind it because of the nature of a bomb, right? The fire hose is more like, hey, everyone's getting wet and you're going to get some high pressure here, but I'm not quite dropping a bomb.
Right, exactly. A fire hose is a lot of information in a short period of time that has to be actionable. A bomb is basically, I am dropping this bomb because things must change. They must change now. And if you fire hose someone over even a period of 15 minutes, a bomb is so much more final. It's kind of like the equivalent of a mic drop. You know,
Yeah,
you're just like,
definitely.
boom, mic drop, said it, done, mic drop, boom, bomb.
So when you were talking about that, I'm thinking about, for families and your daily check-in. I love this, especially during this time of quarantine. There's actually a lot more opportunity for breakdown than we might think.
Yeah.
You're sharing all your time with your family, with your kids, you're working from home, at least I am, doing all the things. And it's like, oops, I think we're forgetting to have the conversation of the expectations of the day. And I love that you just reminded me of that because this is relevant in any area of our life, even just with ourselves. Before all of this started, I was using a planner. I was writing stuff down. I had goals for the week. Guess what I haven't picked up? I'm calling myself out right now going, wait a minute, just because I'm not getting in my car and driving somewhere doesn't mean I can't be doing all the things that I'm doing that helps me stay motivated and productive and knock stuff off the list and make me feel like, yeah, I'm making the best of this time. So this check-in daily with the family, with the work, it's outlining the expectations of the day.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna work from wherever my office is. You're gonna do your schoolwork, and then we have lunch at this time. We have chores. These are the chores I expect you to do. And if at all possible, if you're in this position, how can I support you today?
Yes,
What do you need?
exactly.
What do you need from me? How can I help? Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that insight. I hadn't been doing that, but guess
Yeah.
what's starting ASAP?
Well, our homes have become our offices,
Yeah,
and our to professionalize our lives. I think this is a really great opportunity to say, you know what, I've been held to these professional standards as a professional, and I have not structured my home life to support that. So adding on to the stress of, figuring out technology, doing meetings remote, doing, trying to run projects in a remote way, which is a complete different skill set than walking up to
yeah.
someone's desk. You can't just walk up to someone's desk right now. So we have all of that, whether we're trying to figure out, but when we haven't set up our homes to support, if you're working full time and you've been converted to home work, you're spending 40 hours a week at home in your job.
Yeah.
And if your
While
home
life is
life,
happening in the background. It's
exactly,
not like the dog isn't gonna jump on your lap. It's not like you
right,
have the complete focus that you're used to having.
exactly, exactly. And that's why it's more important to work in block time. It's more important to work in breaks, but it's also really important that if you do live with others, to really do that morning stand up. Like, what does your day look like? What is your day like? And how can we come together? How can we support each other? Because, like it or not, we're coworkers right now.
Right?
I mean, it is if you look at any co-working space, look at any co-working space and how they operate. There's a set of rules for how you use each area. If you are in the open co-working space, the set rule is that you don't take phone calls there. You go into a phone room or a separate area and you take your phone calls. There's rules about where you eat. There's rules about where you meet. When you bring in guests to the co-working space, here's what you do. And we don't have receptionists in our homes. We don't have that time. So we have to create that structure almost of a co-working space inside our homes, because we have people in our homes, we have partners, we have children, we have pets, that all of this now is a small microcosm of an office almost.
Mhm.
One of the understandings that I have when I'm recording the show is that I shut my door, and the dogs are allowed to be inside, but they are not allowed to run in and out because they might start barking on the outside. They don't bark on the inside, and that secures the space. But if I didn't secure the space in that way, I would create anxiety for myself.
Right. Yeah.
So any fears I might be dealing with, any group consciousness I might be dealing with, any societal consciousness I might be dealing with, now I've got something else on
Right.
top of that. And what it creates is it creates a pressure cooker. And
Yeah.
I feel very, very fortunate that I have worked from home for 4 years. I mean,
You're an expert.
I might be, you know. So as a management consultant, I've had to deal with people all over the world at different times, on camera, off camera, any set of criteria that you would think of. But when we are in offices, we are in a container, and that container is our own. It is usually quiet. We usually have a schedule. If we have people who are coming into our office, it's generally because they are scheduled to be there. We've set up good boundaries with our coworkers. Some of us haven't. I remember when I was doing cubicle culture and I would do the cubicle pop by and the friendly, this, that, and the other. But you could tell the people who set their playgrounds really well, because you could tell if they were standing up and they were walking around the office, they were open to engage. But if they were sitting down, if they were in their cubicle and they were working, those certain people who had set those boundaries, they were not open to engage. So how do we bring this part of our work life in the office into our homes? How can we create that certainty for ourselves? And how do we use that certainty as almost the battle bunker for the battle of fear that we're dealing with right now?
Yeah, I think you bring up some really great points right now. And one of them is we were all kind of those of us that work in offices. I usually work in an office and outside the home. So this is not typical for me to work from home. The first couple weeks was like crisis. Set up the computer, find a HIPAA compliant format, call clients and see if they want to meet with me over video. What do you mean I can't go to my office because it was just sanitized? And it was kind of all thrown together. But I think what you're really bringing to the light right now, Diane, is that it's been a couple weeks now. I got my feet wet. I know what to do. Now it's actually time to evaluate my space. Does this work for me? How could I improve this? How could this be more efficient? What am I not doing that I could be doing? But for those of us that don't work from home, it's been long enough now that we can actually start to sink our teeth into this and go, how can I make this work for me?
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Because it's going to have to work. I mean, as of today, April 30th is when things will free up, but we don't know.
Right,
There's no certainty right now. There's really no absolutes right now in life, you know?
right,
And when you operate outside of absolutes, you kind of have to really invest in where your 2 feet are planted, and that's in the today. So
right.
today, how am I set up? Today, what is my communication like? Today, what is my fear management like? How am
Mhm.
I managing my fear? I will raise my hand and I will totally confess that yesterday all I ate was sweets. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I had ice cream, I had brownies, I had chocolate. I had a sweets day and it wasn't a weekend. It was a fully productive work day where I worked. I don't even want to tell you how much I worked. I worked a lot yesterday, but with the way that I dealt with it was, and I had not slept enough. So I had stayed up late working on my workbook. I stayed up till 2 a.m. and I had an 8 a.m. client. So I was really operating on less than 6 hours of sleep. And I powered through from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. I had continuous meetings. And then at 3 p.m., I literally just zoned out and looked at my phone. I just zoned out and just was looking at my phone and scrolling through Facebook and playing silly little home games, and I think, "Well, if I just rest my brain and eat some more ice cream, I will be fine." And then
Yeah.
finally, I just crashed. I just crashed out. I went to sleep, and I didn't wake up and eat a salad. I woke up and ate another sundae, so
So so being flexible with yourself, like you said earlier, taking your own advice, providing that structure. If you're gonna stay up till 2, make sure you don't have a meeting at 6. Because really, actually more than ever, obviously this isn't my norm, but our first episode was about burnout.
Mhm.
And when your home office is in fact at home, sometimes there's no way to decipher when the day has ended and when it's begun and when breaks are okay and how long. And we can kind of turn into these habitual beings of like, well, I may as well just get work done. There's really nothing else to do. But understand that that can create its own monster.
Yep.
We had this conversation earlier. It's all moderation still.
Mhm.
So eat the sweets. We're all going to gain a few pounds. Okay. What do we expect here? Let's be realistic. And at the same time, let's moderate. Let's make sure we're still doing the self regulatory things, eating, sleeping, drinking lots of water, trying to get some form of exercise, even if it's a 10-minute video on YouTube. It really doesn't matter. But this fear piece, I really think the best antidote for right now, because there isn't any kind of certainty. No one can actually say what's going to happen next. We don't know about our economy. I don't care if you're world's best economist, you don't know. It's all speculation, it's all guessing, because this has never happened before, ever. So when you can stay in this present moment and say, you know what? I may be working from home, I may be in quarantine, and the future is not guaranteed, but I'm going to fill out my planner. And
Yeah.
I'm going to hold myself accountable to my personal goals, and I'm going to make the best of this time, because I really don't have a reason not to, number one. And number two, when this is over, whatever that looks like, I'd like to be ready for the next step and phase and level. So
Right.
this is a great time to do a lot of self work. And it's, hey, I'm afraid, and that's okay. That's what I want you to follow it up with. And no matter what it is, I'm afraid of getting fat. Okay, that's okay. I'm afraid of, you know, never wanting to leave the house again because this is so great. That's okay. I'm afraid of what happens to my economy and my house and my job, and and that's okay, because there really isn't a better comprehensive answer right now.
Yep.
You're afraid, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And also that it's not about reacting to every fear right now as well. And the part of it being okay is it's not just okay and dismiss it. It's okay and sit with it.
Totally.
It's okay and make friends with it. I
And
think
eat the ice
what
cream.
and eat the ice cream. I think one of the best things I've ever been told about fear is that if you make fear your friend and you start asking it questions, you can really learn a lot about the root of the fear. You can really learn a lot about exactly what the fear is, and you can actually take steps of self inquiry to face that fear and not just face it, make friends with it, and be not just a platitude of okay with it, but really go, you know what, fear, you came up to teach me something.
Absolutely.
You came up to teach me what I want. You came up to teach me what
Mhm.
I didn't want. You came up to teach me that I feel alive when I do something. You exist for a reason.
And what's
And
important to me, right?
and what's important to me. And so I have these little inside out
Oh,
movie
I love
characters.
that.
I,
Yes.
I have them laid out in kind of a little pyramid, and each week I look at my little figures, and however I'm feeling, I have this little pedestal that's the top character, and I will move my characters to what I'm feeling, because it helps
Oh,
me identify where I'm at. And it's the funniest thing. So I have disgust up there now.
that is precious. I really love that.
But for a while, all that was okay with me was having joy up there.
Right,
Must focus on joy. I must focus on joy. I must focus on joy. What happens if we actually make friends with fear?
right.
What happens when I look at disgust and go, yeah, I am absolutely disgusted right now. And let's lean into that.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's lean into what disgusts me, and what do I need to change that this disgust is telling me that I need to? What kind of message do you have? Emotion, a reason why it's called emotion is because it's movement. It's
Mhm.
movement.
Energy
So,
and motion.
and the same thing in communication, as you're communicating whatever this emotion is, and it might be fear, it might be something else, but is to develop that just as safe of a space for that.
So on that note, I want to add a little bit to this before we end today. As you can see, there's more than one thing you can do with fear. You can love it, you can lean into it, you can be afraid of it and compound it, you can run away from it, you can dig your head in the sand, you can face it, you can get through it. But ultimately, you're not going to have a lot of control over it. It's going to
Right.
come, and then from there, you're going to make decisions. And sometimes you're going to spiral out first, and you're going to be really afraid, and you're going to feel it all, and it's going to be terrifying. And then you're going to sleep, and you're going to wake up, and you're going to decide to do something different. And coming from a therapeutic background right now, these are trying times. And if you have mental health issues that have already been there and you're not getting treatment, please reach out. This
Absolutely.
isolation it's really serious. It's having different effects on all sorts of people. And reach out, please. You truly are not alone, even though we're all isolated. There's still so much good in this world. There's so many people that have hearts to help. So please, please, please take that opportunity and don't suffer in silence. And I
Absolutely.
think we wanted to have a moment of silence and gratitude for the essential workers on the front lines today before we ended this show. So, frontliners and essential workers, thank
This
you.
dead air is for you.
This dead air is for you.
This is Business Therapy, healing businesses from the inside out through communication and emotional intelligence. I'm your host, Diane Hansen, management consultant.
Christine Salvo, marriage and family therapist, licensed hypnotherapist, and mediator. It was a pleasure talking to you guys today. Have a lovely day today.
Have a great day.